Saransh, welcome to Founders Live Conversations. How are you?
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. It is so nice to be here. It's so nice. We're sitting in Dublin, Ireland. This is a part of my tour
Yeah.
through Europe, but I just love to talk with founders and entrepreneurs, and really excited to have you a part of this conversation and talk about not only your journey as a founder and entrepreneur, Envo, and everything that you guys are building. We're going to talk about sustainability and just why, as well as a lot of entrepreneurship. But hey, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how are you doing today? First of all.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping the weather would be much nicer, much more open. But as it's Dublin, it's Ireland. So welcome to
Yeah.
Ireland. Welcome to the cloudy, grey Ireland.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, this is my first time in
Yeah.
Ireland, and
Yeah.
it's so fun to be here. But
Yeah.
you know, maybe just on that topic before we really get into
Yeah.
detail, like what's your thoughts on Dublin and Ireland in general? You've been here. You're from India,
I am from
and
India.
and you
Yes.
moved here. But yeah, like give us a little bit of 1-2 on Ireland.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I moved to Ireland almost 5.5 years ago for my master's. I studied digital marketing, and that was amazing. I would say one of the most toughest things I have done in my life. My professor would approve because he was the one making our lives a bit more like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been amazing. And Ireland, I see, is becoming the next growing tech hub. And as you can see around you, that Ireland has one of the biggest company, the biggest tech companies headquarters are situated here. Just like a very much growing economy, as I see. In the last 5 years, Ireland has grown in terms of, like, I would say, population, in terms of how the vibe has evolved of Ireland. And I see the government is taking a lot of steps to promote entrepreneurship these days. Ireland's ecosystem, when I came, I have seen firsthand as we growing, and the Enterprise Ireland, which is the local government body, has
Yeah.
been just supporting these kind of ecosystem, and it's been great. So I'm quite optimistic.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And um, you know, I have I'm not here too long, so that's
Yeah.
a bit unfortunate. But um, we're here for Founders Live Dublin here in a little bit, so we're excited about that.
Yeah.
But let's dive into even your views on entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
We talk on this show and everything. We talk a lot about what entrepreneurship is. So maybe start with that. I mean, how would you define entrepreneurship? Like, and then we'll talk about what it means to you. But like, what is entrepreneurship to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say that's a great question. I have heard a lot of people answering this question, and I think it's kind of like, on a broader sense, it's pretty much the same for everyone, but individually, kind of like the mission and the purpose kind of changes. And I think for me, entrepreneurship is something that it's the obsession with building and creating, and I think that has been forever. I have been, this is my, like, the current company that we're building is like not my first one. So what I have realized, entrepreneurship for me has always been the love for building, the love for creating
Yeah.
stuff, and the thrill that I get from that, I think, has been the most peak, like the utmost thing, I would say, what entrepreneurship
Yeah.
means for me.
I like that. And
So yeah.
I actually, I've been recently. I said this, but I say this quite often, and I see. I in some ways I see entrepreneurship similar to like art, and in some ways it's my art, my expression, and you're kind of talking about that same thing, which is like
Yeah.
creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
And that there's so much power in that. Of I don't know about you, but for me, my company Founders Live was a Google. It was an idea, and then it was a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And you take something that just written down on this like document,
Yeah.
and then you kind of put life to it,
Yeah.
and then now you're building, and now you're growing it. So that's part of it. For you, why, given that, why choose the path of entrepreneurship when crazy enough, a lot of us entrepreneurs and founders here, we could probably work for a big company.
Yeah.
You already mentioned some of them. Well paid, great salary, but we've chosen this path of maybe more uncertainty, but obviously a bigger possible outcome.
Yeah.
Why did you choose this path?
Yeah. It's a funny question because it's not been long that I have quit my full-time job, my very comfy job in a Fortune 500 company. So I see what you mean by that, and it's it's actually true. It's the innate drive, the innate purpose of fulfillment, I would say. I mean, it sounds very cliche, but that's what really it comes to that, because when you are in a big company, you are a very tiny cog in a very big machinery.
Yeah.
And if that just cog's removed, it doesn't really make a difference. But I feel that if someone is like has a storm of ideas all the time, if someone knows that they're driven and they would like to do something in sense of building anything or creating anything, if that desire becomes strong enough, then is when you feel that you're an entrepreneur. And you take the leap of going full-time into the project, or like quitting your job, or it could be anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say
Fulfillment.
yeah, I think you see it, some inner voice tells you that, okay, this is the point, that when you realize that, okay, it's time to go full time. I feel strongly about this idea. There is a market.
Yeah.
There is my passion aligns with this. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
So I think
Let's go back to some of your earlier experiences, and is there a story, or can you tell us about maybe in your life when you made that shift in decision? We don't need to spend too much time on all these past companies, because we want to talk about what you're building now. But was there a moment in time where you said, I'm going to go make it happen?
I remember when I first started my company. I think I was at the age of 18 or 19. That's when I was like, I felt like, I should be building something out. I have so many ideas. I should be putting something out in the world that people might like. That was the first ever moment at the age of 19 in my second year of college. I started an e-commerce company, and I failed that beautifully, by the way. It was a good failure. I learned a lot, but that was the time I felt like really strong that I want to put something out in the world. And I think that was the feeling that has really remained with me.
Yeah.
That euphoria that you feel, that okay, I'm building something, I have these ideas, I'm making something, and I'm going to put it out in the world. And the process of like that first brain synapse that you get, and then actually building a website, shipping that first product, and seeing it in the hands of customers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, isn't it magical?
It is magical, man. It is magical. And, I even, I talk about this too, and I use this example of like, whether it's seeing, launching that website, and then seeing, people that you have no idea who they are in some country, that you're like, how did they discover us? And now they're purchasing, and they're a customer, or they're using your product. I mean, look, as I travel, like, this is part of why I travel, is to meet people like yourself, founders, and then to obviously meet our city leaders and things. But like, it fascinates me to, people know what Founders Live is in these cities and countries, and it's like, I don't know who these people are. So look, I want that for every entrepreneur. I want that for every founder, to feel the magic of what was in your mind, and then put on a paper or a document, and then now it's an actual thing. You're interacting with it, and then now it's a business, and people are using it and getting value out of it. So it's a very special path.
Exactly. And I think that feeling has stuck. I mean, for a very long time, I was not in any entrepreneurial pursuit when I did my master's till now. But I think it's a germ that stays with you, and if you have had that, that kind of feeling, it really sticks with you. And again, I feel like personally, my mind is like sometimes a storm of ideas. Okay, how about this, let's do this, how about this, let's do, and that energizes, like,
Yeah.
that suddenly like just blasts you up with energy. And I was like, okay, let's do
Well,
this.
let's stay there. How do you take all these ideas and then maybe kind of more make organize and focus? Because it's you don't want to be too scattered, right? So
Yeah.
how do you actually take all that storm of ideas and actually make a much more of a focused activity around that?
Yeah, and actually, this is a great question, and this is something I've been thinking about recently a lot, and this is something I've been struggling about it a lot, to be honest, because what we are currently like, as I said, this is not the first one, and I have tried many tested ideas, hit and trial, failed them. What I have realized is that find something that you are comfortable working on for a longer period of time, and you are comfortable, or at least you're motivated for a longer period of time. So test yourself with that particular idea for a longer period of time, because what really happens is sometimes we take impulsive decisions in, like, okay, I think this idea is great. They go for it without testing on customers,
Yeah.
without, is there a market for it or not. And I think I have made that mistake a lot. I have just tested so many ideas thinking that, from a bias, that this is what I feel is cool.
Yeah.
World will find this is cool as well. And this is what something I suggest to my peers. I mean, I'm not very experienced in this,
Yeah.
but whatever experience I have had is that test yourself with that particular idea, if that you'll be comfortable working on that business or this project, if you don't get paid at all, and if you will still be motivated after, let's say, 2 years, like it happened with us. Like we have recently come into an organized way. Before that, it was all chaos. Literally, we were just navigating our way through chaos all the time, and staying motivated.
Yeah. Hey, you guys stayed motivated, and let's actually jump into that. So Envo,
Yeah.
and you are really working to improve sustainability and all of this stuff, which let's go into it. So I always like to ask, like, let's start with what you saw in the world. Like, what problem did you see that you really wanted to attack?
Yeah. I think the Envo's first initial idea evolved or took birth with frustration of, why is not everyone thinking or doing something about this massive problem of climate change? Because it is the biggest problem. If you Google world's biggest problem, the first result is climate change.
Yeah.
So I was like, and this happened when we were in COVID, when we were all stuck in our houses, you remember?
Yeah.
All looking at our windows, wondering if this is real.
What's going on here?
What's going on? And that was the time I was like, what is the next big problem that is really gonna keep us like this, or keep us in a circumstance like which is really gonna bound us, which is gonna take away our freedom?
Yeah.
And from whatever I studied, because I've been studying this subject from a very long time, I would say from school. And that was the point. I was like, what if everyone does a bit and starts getting conscious about it? So that was, I think, the first point of getting or starting with this idea. And then it slowly evolved into, how can we incentivize, or how can we basically drive or motivate someone to take their bit of action?
Mm-hmm.
It started as a B2C concept. We tested out B2C in the market, and we realized people really don't want to change that easily unless there's a big incentive attached.
Yeah.
And then we pivoted to B2B, which is what Envo that you see now is. So Envo is like a B2B platform for companies to track, measure, and reward for their employee-led environmental actions. But it goes beyond that. It's not just employee-led actions. It basically creates a culture within an organization.
Yeah.
Which is why you asked, like, what is something that you're solving, is the lack of culture. Companies don't have any incentive, any eco culture within their organizations.
Yeah.
Because again, the employees are not incentivized. The leadership is not motivated enough to make that happen or do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like it. So my first thought, and then we'll go into some details on it, but I think the B2C, so you kind of tested some things with, consumer orientation, and then you realize that, there needs to be a mechanism of how people do take action.
Yeah.
And I actually fully agree that companies and employers are that, most people work for a company in some way, shape, or form, and that does allow structure to put policies and just actions in place. That, it's not like forcing people to do things, but it's encouraging and rewarding people to start thinking about this on a bigger level. And we actually talk about it. Climate consciousness is one of our core values, actually. And we say the same thing. If early stage smaller companies around the world think on this level and are conscious of their climate impact at 5 employees, well, when they are 50, 100, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 employees, they already have those practices in place. So we're already there too, talking about that. Great. And I think your angle of kind of working through the corporate and the employment aspect, I think it's a really good angle.
Yeah, no, spot on. Actually, that's exactly what we are trying to build in the company, which is the climate consciousness. And it has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not saying just roll it out to all of your teams and departments. Start with somewhere. See how they are reacting. See what their feedback on taking actions is, or even being conscious about it is.
Yeah.
Because it goes into bigger picture. Because once you start taking action, it starts subconsciously becoming a habit. And then once it becomes a habit, you are naturally prone to, not taking those decisions or choices which are not really sustainable or good.
So walk through what the experience will be, and how what you would bring to the companies, how it's kind of like administered, and even the rewards and the concept there. So walk through that.
Yeah, sure. So it's a suite of combination of mobile app and a web dashboard, very much like a software as a service. The mobile app is meant for the employees of the company, and the web dashboard is meant for the HR or the sustainability managers of the company. The employee has a very Instagram feed like kind of a UI, where you have like a literal camera button. You just open it and you take the action that you're doing. Let's say you're recycling a bottle, or you are planting a tree, you are taking a public transport, or walking or cycling to the office, stuff like that. So it's all visual. So you basically take a visual proof, and you cannot upload it from your gallery. It has to be real-time captured.
Has to be captured. I like that.
Has to be real-time captured.
I like that.
So we avoid the greenwashing and the fake stuff happening.
Good.
So that is some measures that we're taking, but again, it's not foolproof. But we hope it eventually we will be able to make it foolproof. But yeah, so you do that, you submit that action. Our engine tells you what is the carbon or the environmental impact of that action is. Carbon, if it's a clear action that you have taken, we'll tell you this is the amount of CO2 emissions that you have saved. If not, we'll tell you you prevented a fish from dying, you prevented a tree from cutting.
Wow.
Something like that. And that goes in your profile, and that goes in your personal profile as like, this is your personal impact. And whatever you do collectively as employees, all of you, will be seen on the web dashboard by the sustainability manager. So they'll track, okay, these are the kind of actions our employees have been taking. This is the, or she's the best performing employee who has taken the most amount of action in this month. What is the most popular action, amount of carbon dioxide which has been saved, what is the most effective, what is the effective number of actions versus non-effective actions, sort of that. So we are trying to capture a holistic, and still we're building. We are not completely there in terms of features. We are still realizing, okay, in the advanced level suite of our software, what can we introduce for companies to give them more value into their visibility of what their environmental footprint looks like.
So cool. Let's really look at this on a quite large level. And as you said, this is the world's biggest problem, which basically means it's going to be the hardest thing to change and actually affect. Obviously, you're making that direction with companies and all that, which I think, again, it's great. man, just kind of talk a little bit like what really needs to happen. Like this is a very, very serious thing, and you're just one person, and you guys are just one company. Now, brands and companies can have major impacts,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for you all, and we're here too for you. But what really, really, if the needle is really moved,
Yeah.
what do you see that actually needs to happen for the needle to really starting to moving the needle back, making improvements on a global level?
Yeah. That's a great question, actually. What I am a big advocate of is consciousness. First of all, realizing what are we really doing, like literally every day from waking up till you're sleeping. What are we really doing? What does it add up to?
Yeah.
Does it have any consequence? I mean, obviously, people don't think about it because the consequences are not direct to you.
Exactly.
There are like multiple years of the production industrial revolution that has happened, and a lot of like production and recent tech revolution that has happened. All that has mixed up, and it's coming back slowly in terms of what we see the impacts of it. So what I really say all the time is like, be conscious first of all of what is it, get yourself aware what it really means. We come to us, we'll help you out with understanding what is it, or there's array of resources available on online these days. Get conscious about it. Secondly, understand that whatever you do for the environment is directly linked to your own well-being. It's benefiting nobody else but you, because once you start being conscious, your mental health, your relationship with the environment, with other persons, with other people, and your community gets improved. Again, as I said, it's not very direct, you won't see, and that's what the purpose of Envo is, to make it as much direct, as much, make that
Yeah.
path shorter as much as we can. To where you do the action, you reap the rewards, and that's what I really say, and I'm a big advocate of.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it really around personal responsibility, and
Yeah.
obviously I like how you mentioned the just being aware and conscious about what are you doing every day. And if you're hopping in your car and driving every day, there is an impact on that.
Yeah.
Right. If you if you walk or you cycle to work, that actually there's improvement there, and that's one less car driven. But if 1 billion people do one less car driven every day, that is an amazing impact.
Exactly. And that's why we're starting with companies where the most amount or the number of decision makers or the people with power are.
Yeah.
Employees have a disposable income. They are the working class, and around the world, they are the ones with purchasing power. And if they start doing this, I think slowly it will trickle down in the wider society.
Yeah.
So I think the people with power, organizations, first of all, their consciousness, okay, we need to do this, slowly seeping it to the employees, then they start doing it.
Yeah.
And once it becomes a status quo, then the society will follow.
Yeah.
So that's the mission.
I love it.
Let's see how far we get.
That's it. Let's go out like 5 to 10 years. You kind of pick that number, but where do you want it to? Where do you want to go? Where do you see the company and even the impact? But kind of a little bit more of the like, where is this in 5 to 10 year vision?
Yeah, ideally the 5-year, 10-year mission would be to get this across the biggest corporates, the Fortune 500s, the top thousands of all the NASDAQs and the NYSE companies that you see. First, I think if we can get across them, get them use this, make this eco culture a norm.
Yeah.
This becomes like a second nature. That's the goal. So in 5 years or maybe in 10 years, I would love to see the climate consciousness or the environment consciousness. Let's not just call it climate, let's call the environment consciousness becomes a second nature.
Yeah.
If Envo is a driver of that, that would be the most amazing thing. So that's the mission, that right from designing the UI of the app, from what we get out on social media, to our what we speak to our clients. It's the thing that we would like the nature to become like that across the board.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's incredible, and hey, I believe you can get there. Okay, I believe that these things are possible, and you can get there. My suggestion, just since we're on here, man, just have a very long view, and break that up into achievable things over the next quarters and years,
Yeah.
right? And know that you know year 10 is there for you. Like, we're in year 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's year 11 now because we just turned 10, so I don't know what that means. But and I'm sitting here in Dublin, in Ireland. I'm interviewing you, and in year 1, would I imagine that, and would I have seen myself? I So my point is that don't underestimate what will happen in 10 years, but you have to get up every day and do it.
Yeah. No, I try to, man. Honestly, this has been a struggle for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I just wish I'm just trying to learn from what other entrepreneurs are doing, how they get up all the time, every single day, every morning, and stay driven and get the work done. Yeah.
Well, again, how do you and how do they? I mean, I think it's achievable goals and metrics and milestones that you can achieve today, because then it helps you get up tomorrow, that you can achieve this month, so that you can get through this month. That is I'm saying it simply, a lot harder to do, but that's how you do it. Okay. Like, and so I think, like, that's my thought there, and my advice is, like, don't be overwhelmed with, like, because you obviously have large ambitions, and you want to achieve these things over the next 10 years. You'll get there. But have these achievable daily, weekly, monthly things. And right now it's like, get that product out and get it in hands of people, and start onboarding a group of pilot, kind of beta test companies. You need to get into 5 companies and 10 companies before you reach 1,000. So I think you're gonna get there for sure. What you've learned some things through your experience in entrepreneurship. What would you share? Maybe like 2 pieces of advice that you would want to speak to the other founders that are listening, watching, that are there, that are probably going through the same struggles as you. What would you suggest?
Yeah. I think for any successful startup or for a successful company, I think it's the people that make it. It's the team, that makes the mission happen. And for the longest time, I remember I was struggling with getting the team together, assemble the team, get on the mission, align them. So I think one thing that I suggest, or I would advise, and this is something I'm also learning as well, not pure advice, but something advice to myself is that try to align the team that you're working with the absolute mission that you have seen, and then ask them if you see the same beautiful reality that I see, and keep this frequent thing with them every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months, whatever works for you. And see if they are working, and if they're seeing the same reality or the vision that you started from. Again, it changes, it keeps amending, it gets bigger, you pivot the mission, and but keep them aligned and try to understand. I was recently reading this concept about empathy, cognitive empathy, about how it's so important to keep your team driven. And I recently finished a book on that, and it was such a massive mind shift changer for me, that now I am trying to practice that on my own team, like, really understand from them what are they looking from it.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice, to like be very much in tune, in alignment with your team, and keep that
And the
refresh.
key there is constant, like frequent,
Yeah.
checking in,
Yeah.
addressing the alignment. And look,
Yeah.
I think just to add to that, like, look, people change, or context, people's lives change, and it's okay to have that. That's life. But what you're suggesting is make that a consistent, frequent action with the team and from leadership, so that there is reaffirming, connection to the mission.
Yeah.
Empathy is really like, how are you feeling, and how are you experiencing this, and then kind of really leading your team in an empathetic way. I like how you suggested that.
Yeah, because as I said, there was many people that joined in, many people left. Again, people joined in and left. So I sat with myself for a very long time. I was like, what can I fix here?
Yeah.
And this was, I think, something has been working so far.
Yeah.
And I would like to double down on this and just keep practicing that with my team.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's go one more thing that maybe you learned. Hey, maybe you wished someone told you this a few years ago, maybe your first startup. So,
Yeah. No, yeah. The one thing that comes to my mind is absolute clarity on what you are doing.
Yeah.
Like with yourself first, absolute clarity about what you're doing and what you're saying. What's your narrative like in your own head, and what's the narrative that you're putting out to the world? Is there clarity? And
like that.
really articulately putting it out. Like, first of all, make yourself that much articulate, and it's practice. It's a skill that comes with time. And I'm on that path as well, like literally getting myself with that skill of learning how to articulate ideas, articulate opinions, articulate problems, complex problems, and then saying it in simpler words with as much impact, to your team, to your stakeholders, investors, customers, whoever. So that is something I would say personally has made a lot of difference once I started getting more clear and articulate with
Man, that's agreed. I totally agree with that. And in some ways that aligns to Founders Live. Like, look, it's a 99-second pitch, 1 minute 39. And anyone that goes through that and prepares for the pitch and then gets up in front of possibly hundreds of people, they go through a process of clarity, at least, like, well, what are we really doing? What are we building, and how do I say it in at least, at the most 1 minute 39. But what you're also suggesting is people do that personally, and understanding. I firmly believe, actually, I believe now, and just because I've gone through this for 10 years with Founders Live, you just need to do repetitions of your message, and that's sales calls, like investor calls. You all experience, if you've experienced that, the 50th call, you're like, wow. Hopefully you learn through that, but we all need all these repetitions to really fully refine what is the message that we are bringing to how do I describe what I feel and do to the world? How do I, how am I more clear in the messages that I'm putting together? I think that is, that's really a strong leadership advice principle. And, I like how you said that, and y'all are watching and listening, like, just take note. How do I best improve? What am I speaking? How clear am I? Is the words coming out of my mouth making sense to others?
Really, and I also learned this very hard way. I remember, if you allow, I can tell you a really funny story. I was with an investor. He was a very, I wouldn't say he was a shrewd investor, but he values his time a lot. So he sat with me, and because I'd made his picture such big in my mind, that I literally stammered all the way in my pitch to him. I literally stammered all the way. And at the end of it, he said, I did not understand any shit that you just spoke. And so the next discussion that we had was not about the idea, but him explaining me what a founder's responsibility should be,
Yeah.
of you learning how to really speak clearly, get your thoughts in line, what you really want to say, and the value that either your client is getting, investor is getting, or whoever you're trying to sell it to. So yeah, that's been one of the lessons
That's
I've.
huge. I mean, look at
Yeah,
how important that was,
yeah.
and it made a significant impact in your life and totally. I mean, I think yeah. I mean, we've all had these, especially when we're early, when we're very in the beginning of our path. I remember I have a similar. I wouldn't say a similar exact experience, but I know exactly the feeling where you're like, oh my gosh, this is an investor meeting. I
Yeah.
might raise money. They might write me a check. Which, by the way, if it's the first meeting you're having with an investor, it ain't gonna happen. So like,
Yeah,
take the pressure off.
yeah.
But this name, maybe they're notable and they're known in your city or your country. And I have that. I had that experience, and I remember just being like, all right, you got to chill. And I think whether it's investors, sales, or whatever, man, they feel your energy, and if you're nervous energy, they're gonna be like, why is this person so nervous? Like, what's
Exactly.
going on?
Exactly.
So that's why repetitions are important.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and why we're doing this. But man, that's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
cool.
those two pieces, yes.
I like those. I like those. Well,
Yeah.
we're about done here. I know that you might have had a question or so. We don't have much time, but did
Yeah.
you have any thoughts, questions that for me, man?
I'm really curious about the roadshow that you have been doing.
Yeah,
What was your why, and what is it that you really
yeah.
see taking Founders Live as in the next 5 years, 10 years?
Well,
Like that
yeah.
I was curious about.
Look, in a short way, like our why is really that basically Founders Live is 10 years old. So I started it just as basically a pitch competition, and let's highlight the startups in Seattle. That's where I started, and then it started spreading around the United States and then the world. Okay, and so the first kind of 5 to 7 years was really more like, hey, this event was just starting to happen in other cities, and we started to grow this community. But in the end, man, like what I started to really talk with founders like yourself, and as I've started to travel, I mean, it's become directly crystal clear to me that there is so many talented people in this world, whether they're India, here in Ireland, in Africa, whatever. There are, like, no joke. They're smart, they're insightful, they're talented, they want to build, they want to create.
Yep.
The problem is around the world, most all of them have no opportunity. They're not getting served. They're not getting supported.
Yep.
They're not getting the money. It's literally the 1%. And by the way, venture capital, it's like 0.505% or something. Okay. How many hundreds of millions of people, if not billions of people, could, should, and would be successful if they actually just got supported, received like the right resources, access to whatever capital, if they're hopefully they're something of operational capital, and the opportunity to be successful. I think like that's our why. And so that's why we build Founders Live around the world. And now I personally travel, so I pick a part of the world every year and visit our cities like this. And to me, whether it's an interview like this or the event that we'll have, every single day and every single time that I'm doing this, it just makes me more, not convinced, but more aware of the depth of humanity and like the potential. And we just need to get resources to people. And that's really what Founders Live's about. And, I see a huge future of, helping people reach the level that they want to get to. This is not about unicorns.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of look, I build $1 billion company. What the hell? Like, what does that mean? And like, it just is ridiculous. So what it's about is like orders of magnitude more people around the world building great companies, products, solving problems, like especially the new problems of like, you know, environment, climate, all that stuff, sustainability. That's the world that I want to live in, right? And we're getting there. It's really, really exciting. And so, and I would say the last thing is, you know, look, I'm just, you know, came from a middle of the road, you know, in the United States, like not a wealthy family, you know, literally middle class. And I just want people to have opportunities, and just like I didn't have one early on, and that's kind of why I work this thing. And so I want to be able to have others that feel that, you know, they're like, oh, well, how do I go raise money? Or I don't have a rich family. That should not be in the way of being successful, you know?
That's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, thanks for the question. And, you know, it's fun. And, you know, why not travel the world and meet people like yourself?
Absolutely.
So, hey, man, it was great to chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.